Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's pre-market analysis. So I have started with Nifty. So here you can see yesterday what we have analyzed in the pre-market session. So we had this particular pivot point of Nifty, and with respect to the pivot point, we had selected support 1, 2, and 3, and similarly resistance 1, 2, and 3. So let's have a quick look at what exactly happened in Nifty yesterday. I hope my audio is pretty audible. So let's change the time frame. So this line is 15-minute range, first 15-minute range which I marked. So yesterday it actually had a little bit gap up and opened above our pivot point level, which was at 25,930. So it opened above and slight in 15-minute chart. If you see that a slight pullback was there, taking the 15-minute lower zone, and it again went up to hit the target, which was R1, which was at 26,050. So after that, the market pretty consolidated a little bit, and after the volume, buying volume was not as much as needed for having a rush to the R2 and R3. So if we see it nearly made a high at 26,100 level. So our R2 was at 26,150. So with respect to this, we will have a quick look at what Nifty exactly will be having us today. So let's start with the levels actually. So I'll mark down the PP first. So there's only a slight change in the levels with respect to the pivot point actually. So let's mark it out. The PP will be at about 26,000 because Nifty actually closed above our 26,040. Let's round it off at 26,040 only. Let's keep it at 40. So Nifty actually closed over 26,000 level, which actually validate our bullish momentum in the market as of now. So even though the volume was pretty less compared to the other days, other previous days when we have the bullish momentum, but still Nifty managed to close about 26,040 levels, 26,000 levels, so which will validate our short-term bullish view. So with respect to yesterday's high, low and close, we have calculated our pivot point level. So with respect to this pivot level, let's mark down the S1, S2 and S3. So S1, which is at 25 and 50. So this will be the S1. So there is only slight change with respect to yesterday because market we didn't got any movement up to the expectation of R2 and R3. So we expected yesterday the market would be having a move up to the R2 and R3 only if the volume support our movement. So yesterday the volume was comparatively less. So today as well the movement is kind of the levels are slightly changed only slightly. So S2 will be at 25,890. Let's keep 890, almost 900 itself. 890, 880 it is. So S3 will be at 25,800. So as you can see, the levels are kind of nearby only. So this is for the intraday setup. So R1, let's start with the support 1. R1 will be at 26,120 level. So yesterday we had a R1 at 25. So R1 was at 2550. So slightly 70-point increase. Today R1 is at 26,120. Let's mark R2. R2 will be at 26,150. No, no, 120 is at R2 and 26,200 will be the R2 and R3 will be at 26,250. So the levels are kind of nearby only with respect to the pivot point. So these are the levels for the day. So let's mark the pivot point initially. Let's change this yesterday's level. Pivot point is at 26,040. 26,040 is the pivot point. So you can see the pivot line here. So as discussed yesterday, so if Nifty is already trading above the pivot line, you can see here. I'll change it to 1 day time frame. So Nifty 50 is already trading above the pivot line. Here you can see that. So Nifty closed above the pivot line nearly at 2660 levels. So it is nearly trading above the pivot line. So if this movement sustain in the today's opening, if this movement is sustaining, so with a higher volume in the market on the buyer side, if a higher volume in the market, it will lead to these levels. So these zones, let's mark it out quickly. So first R2 and R3 are considered as the bullish zones. So we can ride up to say if it is opening above the pivot level, from that particular pivot level, we can ride the market. We can ride the bullish trend. We can ride the Nifty 50's bullish trend up to the R1. So if the similar pattern in the volume sustains, it will move to the next two zones, which is R1, R2 and R3. So let's mark the bullish zone here. R2 will be at 26,200. The levels are kind of nearby today. So in close levels, we have 26,250 will be the R3. Yeah. So we will mark the sideways or consolidated zone. So this will be in between S1 and 20, S1 and R1. So it will be 25,950, which is our S1, and R1 will be 26,150, 26,120. This will be the consolidated stage where Nifty, if Nifty remains in consolidated or sideways zone, these can be the levels which breaking or a breakdown above or below this can give Nifty can give a higher movement in the market. So let's mark the Paris zone as well. So Paris zone will be below S1, which is the 25,950, to S2 will be at 25,880. So these are the three zones for Nifty. So let's have a trade idea for the day. So any movement above this particular pivot level with a higher volume in the market, okay, with a higher volume in the Nifty, then we can ride up to the first R1 level, which is a 26,120. After that, the similar volume respects in the market, similar momentum keeps in the market, then definitely these zones are going to be tested, which are the bullish zone, which is at 26,200, and this particular 26,250 levels. So this consolidation movement will be happening above. The consolidation movement will be between S1 and SR1, R1 and S1. So any movement below this can lead the market up to the first S1. So if a movement below this S1 will validate a bearish, short-term bearish or a bearish flip can occur below this level, particular level. So any movement above this particular pivot level still validate our bullish momentum, because Nifty 50 is already above 26,000. So these are the levels for Nifty. Let's have quickly move to the Bank Nifty level. So Bank Nifty yesterday also had a great run in Bank Nifty. So with respect to yesterday's high, low and close, we'll mark the zones for the day. So today Bank Nifty's pivot point is at 58,300. So yesterday it was 58,100. Today it is 58,300. 58,300. and the S1, 1 minute, S1 will be at 5850, 58,000. Let's keep it 58,000 will be at S1. 50 S2 will be at 57,800, and S3 will be at 57 550 600 range, 550 600 range. This will be the three support levels for Bank Nifty with respect to the pivot point. So let's have a look at R1, which is at 58. So R1 will be at 58 550. 550, and R2 will be at 58 800, 58 800. So R3 will be 59,000. 59,000 will be the R2. So these are the three support and resistance levels for the Bank Nifty. So let's mark the pivot line first. Pivot line is at 58 300. So yesterday it was 100. We are 200 points up with respect to Bank Nifty's bullish momentum. So Bank Nifty is clearly in a bullish momentum. So today's pivot point will be 58 300. So these are exactly with respect to the high, low, and close of Bank Nifty. So here, if you see today's pivot line, you can see. Let's mark today's R1, which is at 58 550. So yesterday it was 400. So almost we got the R1 actually yesterday. So today also we are expecting the similar movement in Bank Nifty 58. 550 will be the R1, and let's mark out the bullish zone, which is at R2 and R3. 58 800 and 59,000 will be the R2 and R3, which we consider as the bullish zones for Bank Nifty with respect to the pivot line. So similarly, any movement, so actually it is trading above the pivot line only. So this movement sustained with the similar volume yesterday, definitely we will be witnessing to touch the R1. We can ride up to there. So similar momentum continues, then we can consider the R2 and R3. So similarly on the downside, any movement below this can trigger a movement up to the S1, and any movement below this S1 will have a bearish flip, short bearish flip in the market. So in Bank Nifty, these are the levels. So I will mark the zone this out 57. So S1 and S2 58,000, 58,000, and R1 is at 58 550. We have a bigger zone for the day, but still you can see that from this particular level, any movement upward with a higher volume, we can validate the same bullish trend in Bank Nifty. So let's quickly mark the bearish zone as well. 50 S1, it will be at 58,002. S2 is at 57 800. So these are the three zones and levels for Bank Nifty. So consider the volume for confirmation. So any movement above the pivot point with a higher volume will validate our bullish momentum, and it can if similar momentum continues, we can witness it touches the R2 and R3. So let's quickly move on to the Sensex. So yesterday, if we see R1 have been touched after making a low nearly at our pivot line. So today let's mark the levels. So pivot point PP is at 84 900 will be. 84 900 will be the pivot point. So yesterday if you see it was 600 620. So we had a good movement yesterday point 368 points up we are. So today's levels pivot point is at 84,900. With respect to that, let's get a look at the support levels and the resistance. The first support will be at 84,450, 84,550. So yesterday's pivot level kind of nearly pivot level 84,550 will be the S1 and S2 will be at 84,200. 84,200. So with respect to, if we see with respect to Sensex, this kind of difference in the levels is kind of pretty less compared to the previous days. So it's because the pivot point with it is calculated with respect to the pivot point. So S3 will be at 83,900. 300 points difference is the 83,900 will be the, these are the three support levels. So let's quickly move on to the R1 will be at 85,200. So 85,200 will be the R1, 85,200, and R2 will be at 85,500, 85,500, and R3 will be at 85,800. So if you see a similar pattern of 300 points, we can witness here R2. Let's switch R2. So let's mark the pivot line here, which is at 84,900. 84,900. If you see, it was at 650 yesterday. Near to this zone, we have our today's support comes near to that particular yesterday's pivot level line. So here I have marked the pivot line. So let's mark the R1, so which is at 85,200. So yesterday it was 85,200 will be today's R1. So you can clearly see that it is already trading above the pivot line. So I'll mark the zones quickly. So bullish zone will be R2 and R3. 85,500 and 85,800 are the, so slight changes only. 85,500. So this will be the bullish zones. So here we have a rejection. Might, if market move up to here, a possible rejection or a slight pullback can occur here because of this particular high point. So any movement, so only volume can validate this movement. So any movement above this particular pivot line, we still validate our bullish momentum with respect to the volume. So volume we can consider as a validation for the particular bullish movement for us. So let's quickly mark this as well. So this will be between S1 and R1. So 84,550 will be our S1 and R1 will be 85,200. So we have a pretty good consolidation range, a broad one. So let's mark the bearish zone as well, which will be below S1. 550 to S2. Let's consider S2. 85,500. 84,200. Oh, 85 I mark. Let's change it. 80, 84,200. Yeah. So these are the three zones for Sensex. So validate this move, bullish momentum move with respect to the volume. The higher the volume, we can still validate the bullish momentum to continue in the market. So these are the three zones for Bank Nifty, Sensex for the day, three zones with respect to the pivot line and three supports and resistance. So let's have a quick look at GIFT Nifty, where GIFT Nifty is trading. So 42 points up, which validate a bullish start. So let's have a quick look at FIA data also. So FIA is slightly negative in the cash market yesterday. So they closed negative in the market, but still DAA continues their buying streak in the market. So let's have a quick look at FIA's FNO data. So if you look at in the FNO data, it is clearly net bullish, so which validates the positive start in the market. So a slight gap up will be present. So only volume can validate our bullish momentum. So wait for a particular uh, range to break out. So let's have a quick look at Nifty, what exactly happened in Nifty yesterday. So with respect to that, we'll set up a plan. So yesterday, if we see that any movement above the pivot line, which was nearly here at 25 950 levels, 950 levels. So we will mark the 15 minutes range over here. The first 15-minute range you can clearly see. I hope you can see. So these levels. So a breakout entry with a proper volume validation can be done here. So if we see, by after marking the first 15-minute range, any breakout above this particular level with a higher volume. So if we see this, if we change it into 5 minutes, this wasn't a pretty good breakout here with a volume perspective. If we see price action, this wasn't a better breakout with respect to the volume, considering the volume. But if you see here, you can clearly see with respect to the price action, if a better volume, buyer's volume was here. So this can be considered as a valid breakout. So after breakout, the chances of getting entry here is pretty less, but it gave us a pullback down to here. So this can be considered as a proper entry with SL near to this particular level, which is at the 15 minutes low, and you can easily ride up to this yesterday's first target, which was 26,050 was the first target, and we can easily ride up to that. But the premium movement should be considered while trading this particular strategy, 15 minutes range breakout strategy. And one more thing is that there usually tend to have a 10 a.m. reversal candle. Usually it happens that you should consider this also. 10 a.m. a slight reversal usually happens. Usually at 10 a.m. reversal, red candle tend to have, not every time, but usually at 10 a.m. reversal usually happens in the market. But to consider this also while having an entry with 15 minutes range breakout strategy. So I hope everything is clear. Let me look at the comments if we have any. Okay, okay. So that's for today's pre-market analysis. So properly manage your risk for today as well. So every day you should manage. So with respect to the pivot level, a higher volume can validate your bullish trend in all three this thing, Nifty 50, Bank Nifty, and Sensex. So Bank Nifty is presently having a high bullish trend. So it is already in a bullish trend, but take validation on your volume basis. So take validation in your volume. So that's for today. Thank you guys. Have a good day, everyone.